You're listening to 1680 WOKB AM, Winter Garden, Florida.
Welcome to another edition of...
Hello. Welcome to Real Family Talk. This is your host, Jay Real. It's been a while, folks. We've been missing you. I hope you've been missing us as well. We've been on kind of a little vacation. We had Thanksgiving in there. Then I had a vacation last week, but we're back this week. A lot's happening, and we're gonna jump into it. And I'd love to hear from you, hear what you got to say about everything that's been going on over the last 2 weeks in the country. Let me go ahead and welcome everybody in the building here real quick. Jeremy's in the building. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm good. In the building. Hope your Thanksgiving was great.
Excellent. Awesome. Jamba's in the building. How you doing, Jamba?
Hey, I'm amazing. Thanks. Oop, there it is.
Amazing.
I hope everyone's having a great holiday season because it is not over. It's just getting started.
Man. Just getting started. I'm going to give a real quick shout out to, I know Chris Shaw. He's still in the building as well. Chris Shaw, you doing all right in there, man?
Man, I can't call it. I'm alive and wow.
That's what I'm talking about, man. So like I said, man, a lot has been happening in the last 2 weeks in the country. Obviously, the two biggest things that are happening and we're hearing daily things as it relates to these two cases is the Michael Brown grand jury came back and basically decided not to indict Officer Darren Wilson. And then also in New York, the grand jury came back for Eric Garner. And they as well decided not to indict the officer involved in his chokehold that led to his death as well. So we've seen tons of reactions to both of those grand jury decisions, as well as protests, across the country. I was reading today there was protests actually in London as well as it relates to these cases. Even today, just a few hours ago, and maybe probably still dispersing a little bit downtown Orlando, there was a protest going on tonight as well in the City Beautiful as well, related to the protests. Related to the, protesting the decision in these cases. And we even had our own little incident in Orlando now as well. On Monday, an officer shot, did not kill, critically, the gentleman was in critical condition. Now he is in stable condition and actually on bond as well. So he's no longer under police custody, but he was in the process of robbing trying to steal a car or something related to trying to get into a car that was not his. And as the officer arrived on the scene, there's conflicting reports as to whether or not, again, did he have his hands up when he got shot by the officer, or was he fumbling around, as the officer suggested, which made the officer feel a little uneasy about what that gentleman was doing, which caused him to shoot him. Again, this gentleman did not die. He was shot, but he is now stable condition, out of police custody. He's on bond. I haven't heard whether or not he's out of the hospital. I saw an article that suggested he might still be, but he may not be. But he's certainly at least on bond anyway, and is expected to live. He's not going to die. So we had our own little incident here in the city, and I just want to start off. First of all, I want to hear from you. I want to see what you're thinking about all of these cases. 407-894-1680 is the number, 407-894-1680. I'd love to hear from you if you're out in Orlando tonight protesting, down in Orlando protesting. I'd love to hear from you. What are the things that people are looking to obtain from these protests? What's the end goal here of all of this? Just want to hear from the people. 407-894-1680. I'll start with you guys in the studio. What are you thinking, Jamba, as we go through all of these decisions and protests? What's on your mind?
Actually, on the topic of the protests, I'm very excited to see that Orlando and kind of Florida is kind of getting into that, because recently I was wondering, when are we going to start seeing that here, especially with Florida and what we dealt with a couple years ago with the whole Trayvon Martin situation, and all, like, we have our own experience with this. So then once I thought that and said it out loud, then next thing you know, there was a protest down in Miami where they were walking on I-95. And then I saw Orlando tonight. I wish I would have known, but I was leaving work and the traffic and I saw the people and I was like, oh my gosh, about time. It's good to see that we're all kind of trying our best to just kind of stand together and, kind of made known that we're not willing to put up with this anymore. We can band together and do it in a peaceful manner as well. So I mean, that's very nice to look at. And
so excited about the protest. Huh?
I'm very excited. I want to be a part of a die-in. Have you been seeing those?
Well, yeah, they actually did a die-in tonight in Orlando. As a part of the protest, they did a die-in in front of the Amway Arena. There's actually a Magic game tonight. They're playing the Washington Wizards, and again, I've heard conflicting reports. I heard something on the radio that said they did the die-in for about 11 minutes. Then I read something that said they did it for about 15 minutes. So I don't know how long they did it, but they certainly did a die-in right in front of the Amway Arena tonight for some extended period of time. And then they continued on with their protest as they marched through the city downtown. So they did a die-in, in Orlando tonight.
I love the creativity with it as well, just like the die-in and all the slogans that come along with it, the I can't breathe and, and I mean, it really dates back. I mean, the whole Trayvon Martin, everybody wore the hoodies and now it's the I can't breathe, my hands are up. What is that what it's called? Hands up or don't shoot and
hands up, don't shoot. Yeah.
They're all very catchy and it makes you, if you don't know what's going on, when you see that, you want to go figure out what are they talking about, and then you find out more information, and it kind of forces us all to be informed. So I mean, that's always a good thing, especially when people don't like to read nowadays. We all know that. So
what are you thinking, Jerm?
I'm ecstatic about the involvement of everybody as well, because it's like, this is probably the first time in my lifetime that I've really seen this kind of movement for something justice of our generation. Because I mean, like you're saying, you get protests in not every city, but in a lot of cities across the country, cities across the world are recognizing this issue. And it's just scrolling down the Facebook page, and I saw the white coats for Black Lives, You got medical students over the country doing their own die-ins. It's one of them things when you say, because usually this generation we're all saying, or where are we fighting? Why we're not doing protests, sit-ins, boycotts, whatever the case may be, like the prior generation did. It's just exciting to see this happening on this magnitude.
Yeah, and they always call our generation lousy, so it makes me feel a little bit better to show that we do sometimes go out and vote. We do sometimes stand for a cause, and we can do that.
But the thing about people that do have to understand about our generation is we are a generation. I can't even say our generation. It's kind of like the generation right after us, because I know most of us we're 70s babies or maybe 80s babies. But the 90s babies and late 80s babies, that's a technology generation, and they're good. And even the 70s babies, we're good at using technology to get our issues across. Like, as far as the internet, social media, it can go worldwide at a touch of a keystroke, as opposed to waiting for a news outlet to pick it up and broadcast it on CNN or, something, or another news outlet of that nature. But so I think we do take advantage of those things, but it's just exciting really to see people in this magnitude in different cities really pitching in, everybody kind of doing their effort. Unfortunately, there's a lot of unrest in Ferguson, obviously, but then Oakland. It's funny when you see Oakland, because people, if you don't really know the history of Oakland, I'm not surprised. If you really know the history of Oakland when it comes to protests and things of that nature, and even with police abuse and things, and that's where the Black Panther Party, that's where they started. So there's already that fire in a lot of those kids there. I mean, when they know what their parents or grandparents have been a part of, and they really have a real disdain for the police there, because they've seen a lot. Like we always say, this is nothing new. It's just getting attention. So, you have cities where this has been going on, where people are really fed up. Unfortunately, anger is expressed by destroying things. Not always the right things, but hey,
We can find a better way.
yeah, you would think so.
Talking
but-
about the looting that's been going on in certain cities.
yeah,
There's always a better way than looting because
hey.
looting doesn't solve nothing.
but did you see the unrest in Berkeley, California? Though
I missed that.
the police had arrested a bunch of people with protests at the University of Cal Berkeley. Now, if you don't know that, now that's not necessarily a center of minorities, or at least not black people. Let's say that. You know, so it's like even just seeing like it's really going across. It's really generational because there's a lot of white people protesting. There's a lot of Asians protesting. It's just people of all colors, just from this generation, who are seeing all this unrest and they're kind of trying to, pitch in and stand up for it overall. And I believe that's why it's really getting this much attention. And then it's helping too with the NFL players where their hands up. The NBA players are wearing their "I Can't Breathe" T-shirts for warm-ups. Even though their commissioner don't want them to, I applaud those guys.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. I don't know if you guys got a chance. Brother German, younger brother, he posted last week a recording that I did as it relates to some of the Michael Brown situation and the protests that were going on. And you can listen to it, too, if you go to the Real Family Talk Facebook page. There's a link up, also a link from the realfamilytalk.com website as well. But one of the things that I kind of question as it relates to all these protests, I think protests are great. It shows people that you're paying attention and certainly that you're fed up with some particular situation. In this case, Black Lives Matter, as they say, one of the hashtags that are out there. But the question that I have is what's the point of the protests? Like, okay, so we're protesting. So what's next? What comes after the protest? What is the protest?
What's the plan?
What does it lead to? Because we can protest and protest, but what does it lead to? And then secondly, we got all these people protesting. How many of these people are voting? How many of these protesters that are out there, thousands and thousands of protesters at this point, right, across the country, across the world.
Yeah.
The ones outside of the country don't matter when it comes to voting, but who's voting? How many of these protesters are actually voting? Especially when you go back and you look at Ferguson. Of course, one of the things that's been pointed out, the prosecutor that everybody hates out there, he was up for re-election in November, and he won re-election by a landslide. There was competition there, but he got good 70% of the votes, and only 30% of the people showed up to vote anyway. And so they're protesting, they're upset about his decisions, but they're voting him back in office. So you're protesting, but who's voting? Who's voting? 407-894-1680, 407-894-1680. And so the same thing can be said, as you look across the country and you see all these people protesting. I think protesting is great. But I think in our society today, what a lot of the point that we're missing is, this is awesome, but what are you doing to change the system that has propelled us into these situations in the first place? Which goes back to voting. And so what's my biggest question. Protest. What's the end result? What are we looking for? What are we trying to accomplish in these protests? We want to. I get that we're trying to. Obviously we don't want to see black lives killed by the police, but we didn't need a protest to figure that out. So what are we protesting for? 407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680.
I think that the point of protest is just kind of to go back to the whole slogan that they had in 1992. I was reading an article about different slogans as the years went on about the whole Rodney King situation was a no justice, no peace. So with that, when you turn on the news, what's the first thing you see? You see a protest. And it doesn't matter if the CNN or if whatever news station it is has a split screen. You'll always see on one side protests going on. So with that being said, people are tuning into the news. So now you're being more informed, and I'm just hoping, let's just hope, that this is kind of pushing people or put people in the right direction to kind of stay more informed and to want to actually do something, to realize that you have a voice. It can be heard. All you have to do is use it. So I don't know. I just hope. I completely agree, though.
Because let's put this in perspective. So So obviously Eric Garner and Michael Brown got killed before the elections, right?
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't know what the grand jury decisions were. So people weren't motivated by their deaths before November. We're protesting now into 2014. I'm sure there'll be some protests going in 2015. The election is not for November 2016. So how or when will those, again, translate to when the issues matter, when you can vote some of these people out that you are ruining the country, if you will, in 2016? Because that's a long time from now. There's a lot that's going to go on between now and then. I see we have a caller. How you doing tonight, Willie?
I'm doing fine. And I agree with the speaker as far as voting. I spoke with my wife about that, and we have to vote. And a lot back in the day when people marched, that was one of the main reasons they marched, that we don't have the right to vote. And voting is where the power is. You can march and protest all you want. I have co-workers that are white, and they don't respect marches. They just say, I hear them say things like they have a little march, and that's it. They have a little march. They don't respect that. We have to vote because that's where the power is. That's all I have to say.
All right, I appreciate it, Willie.
Mm-hmm.
407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680. Again, I had to back up what Willie said. That's my whole thing about all of these protests. Is like, that's great, but if I had to bet, if I was a betting man, I'd feel comfortable in saying at least I'm gonna give a comfortable 40% of the people that are protesting also didn't vote. I'm gonna give a generous 60% of them actually voted.
Being generous.
I'm being generous, and I honestly don't even believe that.
Yeah,
But I'm gonna say that at least 60% of them voted. So that means 40% of them didn't vote, and it's like, again, even around in Florida, about 35 to 40% of the voting population voted in November. That means at least 60% of them didn't vote. Like, you could have changed elections across the state if all 60% of those people would have just came out and voted. But we protesting because we don't like some grand jury decisions. Like,
I mean, is that fair to say that because I didn't vote, I don't have the right to protest?
It's fair to say that just because you protesting, your protest doesn't affect change. Your vote affects change.
Ooh, I think they both affect change.
I don't know.
Well, you know what? I see both your points. But Jay Real has a very, very valid point where voting is the biggest thing you can do because it's a direct correlation. Protests do work, but when you're talking about protesting, until you really start hitting folks in the pocket, which is the one thing I think we need to do better as, because the marching is good. It's a good show of solidarity. It's a good show in general. But the one thing that companies, governments, things of that nature, if you really want them to listen, you got to hit them in the pockets. Because that's what they understand. Because at the end of the day, it's all business to them.
It's always about money.
So you have to hit them in the pockets for them to really get the gist. If you want to, because, it's a situation like, let's just say, some whatever company did something discriminatory and it made a big splash. And everybody say, we're going to boycott them. Don't go buy there. But the company's sitting back like, well, we going to see. If everybody keep going to buy, what they have to change for? They have no reason to change. So it's a situation like, I believe part of the plan, it has to be an economic protest. I think the boycotts need to go the economic route because especially in this day and age, all they understand is money. Powers that be, all they really understand is money. That's all they care about. They say, okay, you can march in the street all day. That's fine. When you get through marching, you finna go in the store and buy some water from me. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, let's be real. That's how they think. That's how CEOs think. That's how board of directors. That's how they think. It's all about numbers.
I hear you. 407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680 is the number. Again, though, what are the solutions? That's what I'm curious about. I haven't participated in any protests because, again, protesting is good, but who's voting? That's what I really want to know. How many people those voting, and then how are, everybody that's organizing these protests, how are you going to translate these protests in 2014 to votes in 2016? Because that's what's going to matter. It's going to matter in 2016 because you're not going to catch people's attentions when, one, they already believe you're not going to vote anyway. That's what they think. You're not going to go and vote. They think you're going to do these protests now. And it's going to make a bunch of news, and it's going to be across the country. But come the time when it matters to vote, they believe you're not going to show up. So at the end of the day, yeah, it's going to be an annoyance. Yeah, you might get some, some what is that, pacified attention, if you will. But at the end of the day, they don't believe you're going to vote when it matters. So they don't believe you protesting today is going to have any effect on whether or not they return to office after November 2016. So at the end of the day, they don't owe you nothing because they know you ain't going to vote anyway.
And what's horrible about that is I'm not sure how many people were with me, but I was just kind of waiting for this to die down. I'm just like, yeah, everyone's hyped now. Everyone wants to fight the power. I'll give it some time. Everyone's going to forget about it and continue on with their lives. But it's actually been going on for a lot longer than I thought. So, with that, you never know. I think it's just kind of fair to say that protesting is still something more than what, if no protests were going on, this is still making more of an impact than everyone just kind of being silent and it continuing to happen.
What do you think about, one of the big things that some people talk about is, well, every officer needs a body camera. And if every officer has a body camera, well, then we'd at least be able to see what's going on. And then when a situation occurs, we'd be able to prove that this was, some malice event that led to some persons getting shot or death.
I think that's all fine and dandy in theory, but only if that's gonna affect anything or make something different, make there be a different outcome. How many videos are there right now? You can YouTube so many videos of police brutality and all this. We have the entire Eric Garner situation on camera, the entire situation, even from when he was going into the when the ambulance came and they were he's still laying there. He's not breathing. No, yes he is. Like, we have literally the entire situation, the entire incident, and look what happened. It means really nothing, honestly. So again, it goes back to, you just got to have the right people who are there for you who can produce that change. So it goes back to the whole voting thing.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you have to. And it's funny. So it's like the older I get, the more I really been on voting. Because I was between the ages of 18 and probably 26, 27, I never voted. I didn't care. Very apathetic. I was in my own little world, and let's say that. I didn't care about voting. I was like, nothing they're doing is going to affect me, because to a degree it really didn't, because my mindset was, if I needed something, I'm just going to get it. And so, but now being older and wiser, as I say, when you know better, you do better. Mm-hmm. I'm a big advocate of voting, especially when you got a lot to say. Did you vote? Why is that prosecutor still in office? Mm-hmm. Why is that chief of police still in office? Why is that mayor? Why is that tax collector or whoever? Why are they still in office if we're so upset about them we don't agree with anything they're doing?
Why are you complaining and not doing anything about it? Right.
And even like the voting not the voting, I'm sorry, the protesting. Like I said, I like protests too, because at least it shows a sign of solidarity. It shows unity. But now it's like, okay, what's the next plan? Let's take that same spirit of unity, that same spirit of injustice and for equality, and let's put it towards something tangible on paper, or something that can really affects change. Because at this point, we're really just a bunch of people laying in the street, to be honest with you, that stops traffic.
Right.
It is inconvenient. Yes, it's very inconvenient. Are the police a little irritated? Yes, they are. I'm sure they are. But the powers that be, they don't care. The same power, the same power structure that we're or oppressive state that we're aiming at, they don't care. Because at the end of the day, come 2016, where are you going to be then? Now, if you're at the polls then they say, okay, well, maybe they were serious. Or maybe if there's like I said, if there's a boycott of a store or of an industry or whatever, then maybe say, okay, well, maybe they're serious. Let's sit down and see what we have to do. But until then, again, I don't want to downplay it or be, I'm not against it or anything, but at the end of the day, we really are at this point just a bunch of people laying in the street.
Yeah, I was reading an article. 407-894-1680 is number 407-894-1680. We're discussing the protests that have been going on across the country, across the world even, as it relates to the response to the Michael Brown and Eric Garner grand jury decisions. And we're talking about what impact do they have moving forward. And then, two, more importantly for me anyway, Jay Real, the host, how many of those protesters actually voted in November? That's the biggest question for me. But in talking about protests, I read an article and talked about how, as I am today, I'm criticizing whether or not protests matter. But in the article, they talked about, if you go back and look at our history, right? Back, during the Martin Luther King days and that civil rights era, they did a lot of protests. And from those protests, there were things that happened or that resulted from those protests. And so the point of the article is to say, we have a history to show that protests do matter and they can change things. My argument to that, as I was talking about this with someone, was simply that, they were protesting for a right that should have been given to them but was being denied from them. And so it was sort of that easy A to B step, if you will.
Right.
So
yeah.
I have a right to go and sit at any restaurant in the country. That's a right that is afforded to me. But it is a right that's being denied of me by my government, by this individual, wherever the case may be. And so I'm fighting for my right to be able to sit wherever I want, right? So that's an easy A to B solution, because the solution is you give me my rights and then somebody upholds those rights, right? In this particular situation, I don't see the A to B. I mean, you already have a right as an individual to be any place you want, so they're not preventing you from that. The problem here doesn't stem from a right that you're not being given. The problem here extends from let's say, fear, perhaps, in some cases, misunderstanding, prejudices, racial biases that may exist that are leading to some untimely event in some particular situation. So when we're protesting, again, what is it? What are we going for? Like, what is the end result? Because we're not fighting for a right, I don't think, at least as I see it. We already have the rights. We're just looking to hopefully overcome some kind of racial bias, which we're talking about people. How do you protest racial bias out of people?
It's probably the action towards the racial bias that we're trying to bring about that change. So as, I don't know if you've seen it around people, a lot of people are like describing this as modern day lynching, where people are being killed in broad daylight in the middle of the street and getting away with it. So I don't, like you said, that sounds silly. You can't protest racial bias. Like, that makes no sense. But it's just the action that happens after it, the reprimand. Who gets away with what? I saw this video, there's videos going everywhere now, of this guy. He was like in a restaurant or something, a fast food restaurant. Like, two cops were trying to get him to get out, and he started fighting the cops.
Yes.
And they were tasing him, and he was still taking off, and ran off, and they're chasing him and trying to tase him, and he's literally in their face, and he got shot. And
lucky.
It's I don't know if lucky is even the word, or we should be surprised because who it was. So now it's bringing about all these questions that we were raised to just kind of no longer have to view anything as far as like racial, he's black, I'm white, or he's black, he's white, he's this, he's that. Now we're going by color and, just right. Why is it okay if they shoot to kill? They no longer shoot to protect or shoot to disarm, to kill. And just kind of all these areas of confusion that keeps happening.
407-894-1680. 407-894-1680 is the number.
It's frustrating.
Well, you got something to say, Jeremy?
Well, I was like, yeah, you know, they're definitely gonna shoot to kill. You know, it's hard. I would imagine it's hard when you're in a confrontational situation. Let's say in situations where it's a confrontation for you to shoot to maim. Now, if you're standing back off someone, I don't know, but even at that point, it still be kind of hard because you know most of those guys are not no real marksmen. You know, that's a real skill when you're talking about shooting somebody in the arm from a distance away. You know, even from a pretty short distance. You know. And, you know, I know they have tests they have to pass, but even still, it's a reason why everybody's not a sniper, you know?
Yeah, but you shoot someone, you watch them hit the ground, and you continue to shoot them. I
can't explain it because I can't say if I was in a situation, I would stop shooting. So I have to be, you know, I have to look at it from that standpoint. You know, if I feel fear for my life, which, you know, a lot of them say they are, and I start shooting, they hit the ground, I'm not going to say, I'm just going to stop shooting, you know, and then you have to look at it that once you're pulling that trigger, it's not always easy to stop letting go, you know. It's like, you know, you have all those situations. It's like if you feel your life is in danger, you know, I don't know. It's just too easy to say, oh, well, just stop shooting.
Shouldn't you be trained in that area, though, to just not allow, you know, fear or anger to just kind of block your
I don't know if
judgment.
we can really train that.
What I would say is, too, I mean, you got to remember, cops do, you know, we hold them to a higher standard, and I think there's a reason for that. But at the end of the day, they're still people. They're men and women just like we are. And when they're in situations where, you know, perhaps it's late night, you know, they're on patrol, they're by themselves. At the end of the day, I think the officer is attentive. If he feels threatened for his life, I think he has to, you know, I think to question in that moment what to do, it might lead to his own death. And so he has to make that split decision and do the best that he can in those decisions. I just don't
know how I would feel if a firefighter told me that, you know, I'm just kind of afraid to do my job. I'm afraid to run into that burning building because I think that's what most of them are. I think they act out of fear before they act how they were supposedly trained.
How you doing, Evangelina?
I'm doing great tonight.
Hi, what's your comment?
I've just been listening to you guys talking about the protesting that is going on and how you were saying that it's many out there that was protesting was not voters.
Yeah, I question that. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. It may be so, but it don't mean that they won't be voting in the next election in 2016. You know, I know it's quite a few out there is protesting and everything, so I wouldn't say that all those voters, the one that is protesting that did not vote in the last election, will not be voting this time around. I do believe they will be voting in 2016 because that tells a whole lot of things about what has happened over the last about 3 months ago.
Okay. All right. Any other comment?
And another thing, they are not only just protesting about the shooting and the killing of these black guys. I think they're protesting for a whole lot of reasons. You know, police brutality, fair housing, and all that goes down with the same deal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Evangeline. I appreciate you for calling.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 407-894-1680 is the number, 407-894-1680. You know, I'll just say this, my personal beliefs. I hope he's right, and I hope all of these individuals that are protesting now, for those that did not vote previously, I hope they do change their tunes and show up in November 2016. I hope she's right. But
but there's always the but.
I mean, because at the end of the day, history has proven that they're overall, let's say, not everybody. I mean, history has proven. I would say there's probably going to be a better percentage of voter turnout. But to me, we shouldn't be. To me, striving for 50% of the people to vote is not good. You don't aim low. At least that's what I've always been taught. when we shoot for goals, just be aiming low. Let's hope we can get half the people that's registered to vote. No.
Let's get all.
Let's get all of them.
Let's get all of them.
You know? It's like it's I don't know. I don't understand. And it's crazy. Like I said, for a good period of my adult life, I did not vote. And I mean, honestly, I just really didn't care. I just really didn't. But when saying I didn't care, I wasn't protesting anything. Something happened, like, whoa, man, that's messed up. You know, and I'm gonna keep it moving. You know, and it's like, okay. But you know, at this point, when things really upset me, again, it's like I got to register to vote. I'm not voting for this person, that person. You know, I mean, I even don't. If it's something that really touches me, if it's backed by a particular retailer or something to that nature, or I will do economic protest. You know, when people, I didn't go on Black Friday, I didn't shop on Black Friday. Mm-hmm. You know, and I really don't do it anyway. I haven't. Let's say this: I'm not really an active participant in Black Friday anyway. But you know, I consciously said I'm not going anywhere and shopping Friday. Mm-hmm. You know, and, you know, things of that nature, I can get with that. So I don't understand. You have people having the passion to walk all day in the street in the sun and lay on the ground, but you can't go check a box.
Yeah, I think we're getting to a point, if we're not there already, that people are just kind of fed up. And I'm just hoping that all these protests and, you know, you're right, just walking and just thinking about it. Yeah, I remember 2 years ago when I walked for 3-4 hours. You know what? Now I'm just my fire is just burning. I'm just going to go vote. And my voice is going to be heard this year. This year is the year because I'm fed up.
I truly hope that Evangelina is correct, and that, you know, people will be motivated 2 years from now, and go out and vote. I hope she's right, but
there's always a but.
I don't know, man. I just looked at what happened in 2014, and we know what happened in 2012. Barack Obama was on the ballot, and so that motivated a lot of people, but. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there won't be any Barack Obama in 2016, so.
Sure enough, won't. We go get behind the right Caucasian candidate.
Yes. There will be a Caucasian candidate.
They will be Caucasian.
In 2016.
Cory Booker is not.
Well, he might be.
Well, yeah, he might be, but.
He might jump out there. You know, work for Barack, so he might jump on out there, but more than likely, it's going to be a Caucasian candidate, and so will they run out in droves and run to the polls? That's the question. Another article I was reading talking about these events and what led to these events. In this particular article, Indian gentleman, native Indian gentleman wrote the article, and he said it's our fault. He blamed black and brown folks for the reasons that the grand jury decisions came out the way that they do. And his point was, and he used himself as an example, sort of like you did a few minutes ago, Jeremy, talking about jury duty. So,
I saw that.
Yeah, when it came time for jury duty, first of all, in order to get qualified for jury duty, you have to be a registered voter. So if you never registered to vote, well, you won't get a jury duty summons. And then for a lot of people who get the jury duty summons, you find every reason in the world as to why you can't serve on those grand juries. And so when you perhaps, you know, are in that unfortunate situation where you now need to have a jury decide your fate, and the jury is full of people that may be something like you, are finding thousands and thousands of excuses as to why they can't be on jury duty, and then you're wondering, you know, well, is that a jury of my peers? Well, unfortunately, like you, in some cases, a lot of your peers are thinking, I don't want to be here, so your peers aren't on there. So you're kind of stuck in some jury that doesn't quite represent who you are. And then perhaps because they don't understand you, are not rendering a decision that perhaps you think is justified, if you will. And so when you talk about a grand jury, again, it's going to pull from that same pool. And so if those individuals are doing the same kind of events, then you end up with a grand jury that may not sympathize or understand the complexities of what leads to some of these situations to be able to bring back an indictment in some of these areas. 407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680 is the number. Just another layer to sort of think about that you really don't even put in perspective when you think about it. And this young man did. Again, that article Well, that's linked to my Facebook as well. Any comments on that, ladies, gentlemen?
I think it's all just a cause and effect. And it's, as we said, it's just always going to go back to voting. It's just always going to go back to, you can't expect change to just come from me standing on my soapbox all day. Everyone listen to me. Now things are going to be different. You have to exercise your right. And if you're protesting, like you said, what exactly are you trying to fight for? What are you trying to change? Where are you trying to take this? Because, okay, tomorrow comes and you're still walking? Is that what we're doing? Can we get some articles written? Can we get some, I don't know, some names, 500 names to try to get somebody out of, I don't know, something to just kind of keep it moving. Not our feet, but everything outside of that. Paper, documentation, something. We can't keep walking and expect some change. I think it does affect a lot that goes on. And like I said, I'm just hoping that this will just kind of ignite everyone's fire to do something else. But this just can't be it. We can't just go walk for 4 hours, go back home, and wake up the next morning and things are different.
That's not how it works.
We're trying. We're trying. I'll give it to us. We're trying.
1680 47894 1680 is the number. I don't know. Like I said, at the end of the day, for me, I think protests are great, and it is certainly bringing to light. I mean, like you talked about today, there was an article, White Coats for Lives Matter, I believe was the article.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
There was, where you basically had individuals throughout medical schools across the country were doing protests where some of them were laying down. They were taking aerial photos of the events across the country, UC, University of California, and in a lot of the different cities that particular school is located. They had shots that they were posting, as well as Northwestern, the University of Illinois, as well, and several medical schools across the country. So, all of this is great, and I hope that it transitions and those that are protesting find a way to be able to connect those dots so that those that weren't engaged in 2014 in the voting process somehow stay engaged enough so that when November 2016 comes, those same individuals go out and actually vote for candidates who are going to support whatever agenda that they feel needs to be supported, and I just hope it translates, because I think at the end of the day, protests are great, but if you're not voting, your voice is not being heard. It's just blip on the radar, because we're in a non-election year. So it's a blip on the radar. And so even while they may get some pub, the president held a conference where he invited a lot of young activists to the White House to talk to them. At the end of the day, a lot of them walked away from that meeting feeling like there wasn't a whole lot accomplished. It was, again, press release. And so you'll get some of that. You may even get a hearing done somewhere, but what I know you're not going to get, or at least in my opinion you're not going to get, is a concrete solution that changes things. I think you're going to get body cameras out of this situation. And so I think you're going to see a lot of police departments getting body cameras, which is actually an effort that the president is supporting. And so he's even trying to send money towards that effort. So I think you're going to get those things, but as we saw with Eric Garner, you can have video, but video doesn't necessarily always lead to the indictment. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be, there's going to be some things accomplished, and we'll feel like we accomplished some things. But at the end of the day, I think unless you're consistently voting, I think that's when you'll see the changes that may take place, because maybe you'll see more black police commissioners. And then as you perhaps get black police commissioners in positions of empowerment, then perhaps they can begin to slowly affect the changes in the department that help young white officers to better deal with young black men when they see them in the streets. Those little subtle changes, I think, is where you're going to see some of the changes. I didn't motivated him. He done stepped into the booth. Chris Shaw's in the building. What's up, Chris Shaw? What you got to say, man?
Man, all is well, all is well, all is well. Listen, and I'm vibing you and what you got going on and what you're talking about in here. But, you know, it's the voting is just a portion of it. A portion of it, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. You have to vote. You have to vote to make some changes come about. But then too, you had people like Malcolm X, who was that other piece of the pie that was just not so great, but who stuck out and said, okay, look, this is what you want to do. Well, this is what I'm going to do. And the protests and everything that are going on, these are people just tired of what's been taking place for so long and for what they've seen that happened for so long. So, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you wholeheartedly because that's just a peaceful way of going about it. That's the Martin Luther King way of going about it. Most of the people that are out protesting and rallying now are your Malcolm X's who say, okay, something got to be done and you got to do it now. It's either now or it's never going to happen.
You know what, Chris, though? I would go so far as to say they're not the Malcolm X's. And the only reason I say that is not saying they don't have the same type of ideas,
mentality,
but how far are they willing to go?
And that's the key.
Because it's like Malcolm he would go far enough. Let's say Walmart, they said, okay, we're not shopping at Walmart. Who is everybody going to really join in? When it's just so easy just to go between the
just
prices and everything in there. Or let's say we say, okay, we're not doing Walmart, we're not doing Dollar General, we're not doing Family Dollar. People are like, well, they got all the cheaper stuff. I can't afford to go to Publix. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because that's the mentality that we have to have. We have to have a all in mentality,
and we don't have that,
right?
Because people are scared. I'm gonna throw it out there. I said it. People are scared because, okay, well, if I don't do it, then this might happen and this might affect my life. And everybody is all about my life.
Right.
It's the idea of having something to stand for and actually standing for.
Right. It's like, oh, well, you know, I would support, but my budget, you know. You know, I really need and not by no means do I say it's easy, but it's a sacrificial thing. Like if they said, you know what, we're boycotting Christmas, and when I say Christmas, I'm not talking about the birth of Christ and that celebration of it. I'm talking about the gifts, the commercialization of it. We're not buying gifts. We're not going to these stores buying toys. We go boycott Christmas this year.
We're gonna have a family get together, sit down and eat dinner.
Right. Now, who is going to go all in and just sit down and tell your kids, hey, this is for you. This is not for me.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10, it's not going to change in my lifetime. This is more for when you grow up. You don't have to deal with it.
Right.
You know, who are we willing to really sit down and have that conversation with our kids?
And that's what a lot of people are scared of doing. And it's a shame that I'm going to say it. It's a shame that we scared.
Yeah.
And me being a follower of Christ, I ain't never scared. It's a lot of stuff I do, and I tell people all the time. And I tell you, okay, well, I put myself out there. No problem with it. Because I mean what I say, and I say what I mean. And that's just me. I've always been like that. So I commend you, bruh, and I appreciate you. But we just have to do a little bit more, though. Besides the voting aspect of it and besides the rally, it's time to put 2 and 2 together. Vote, go out and vote. I encourage each and every individual to go out and vote. And like he said, it's a possibility you could see some changes. Okay, but then when those changes come, are you going to back those changes up when they come? And then if you really want to go deep, because I can go in with you, okay, well, let's go ahead and go to these courthouses and let's sit in these jury meetings and everything, and let's talk about this thing, because I don't like the way this judge is, doing this and doing that. Let's boot this judge out of here, because people forget they do have that kind of power.
Right.
If you get everybody together, they do have that kind of power. Just like on television, you see one of your favorite programs. That was my show. Why they stop airing it? People were complaining about it. They stopped getting the funds for it. The commercials stopped coming in for them. Bada bang, bada boom. There it is.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, it goes.
Right.
Exactly.
Honey boo-boo, you know what I'm saying? Bye-bye, but, I'm going to behave.
I think they was tired of Honey Boo Boo anyway. I think Honey Boo Boo was tired of Honey Boo Boo. Before we go, I had another question I wanted to ask you guys too. Yesterday they released a torture report, they're calling it, detailing some of the ways that the CAI did their interrogations and torture report, as they're referring to it, a few years ago, right after September 11th happened. What do you guys think about that? A lot of people are upset and saying, I can't believe we did this kind of thing as a country. They're talking about the waterboarding that was done. They're talking about some of the things that they did is temperature, basically. They tested them with temperature. They keep them in cold temperatures for a long period of time, keep them in hot temperatures for a long period of time. Different techniques that they used that some people are calling torture, and that they were unnecessary. And as a country, we're above this. I can't believe we authorized this type of stuff. Just tell me what the people are saying. What's your opinion, Jeremy? What's your opinion on
This
that?
is my opinion. First of all, excuse me. I don't know if you watch movies, but if you watch movies, anything to do, ever since 9/11, it's been a steady stream of movies dealing with terrorism on different levels. And in every one of those movies, we are torturing people. Mm-hmm. Now, please understand, this is not coming from nowhere. And not even that. Let's just be a common sense level with this. We're the most powerful country. Well, it's debatable now, I guess. But we're the most powerful, military-wise at least, we're the most powerful country in the world. How did you think we got there? I know we have this policy, we don't negotiate with terrorists. But, it seems, and it looks good, it sounds good. But at the end of the day, when they need some information, best believe they are down there with Abdul in the basement getting it in. You understand what I'm saying? They down there getting it in, and it's like, and I'm not mad at them. I'm not saying it's right, but I mean, from a standpoint of being a military and that's what they do. That's what certain people. That's what you hired. I mean, what is the point of having trained people to do all these things and they not do anything? So we just paying them $200,000 a year just to sit around and talk. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, y'all. What do y'all think is really good? That amazes me how ignorant the public is about a lot of things.
Well, it's obviously to me it's a real political move,
right? Obviously, but it's just amazing when you hear everyday people. I can't believe. What do you think? Come on, what do you think it takes to? Do you realize? I mean, do you watch the news? What these people do? They over there cutting heads off and putting them on sticks and sticking them in the ground and lying in the streets. You just can't go down there and tell them, hey, man, you stop. You understand? You have to meet that. You understand? You have to meet that.
But his face, hey, stop. Yeah, his face,
No,
stop. Don't do that.
You gotta meet that. Because that's what they understand. And if you can't go there with them, then you're not real. And it's like, I can't take you seriously because I'm willing to go there. So if they sitting back like, if they not going to go there, now we go, it's no boundaries now. You understand what I'm saying?
That's why we friends. I'm on your side. That's why, because you willing to go there. So I'm your boy. Let me know how it is on the other side of
I'm a big believer. I'm very much a peaceful man. I really am.
Uh-huh.
But if we are at war,
you better
war
believe.
is war. War is no rules in war. I know we got the Geneva Convention and all these quote unquote rules of war, but they do not exist on the battlefield. They do not exist in the basement.
They don't exist.
They don't exist
at all.
They exist if the cameraman is standing there.
Even if the cameraman.
But best believe
war.
They were like, hey, we need you to go down in there and hide for a second. And it's on. And you know what? A lot of cameramen, they quote unquote real patriots. They go flip the camera off. Do what you got to do because I want to go home. Please do not leave me here execute and have me on video being executed.
But I really haven't come to read the story and the full detail of it. But yet and still, it when you think about it, when they grab us, they're behaving us. They're recording us. They're showing us. Okay, well, this is who you want. Until you give us whatever we ask for, we're gonna take somebody every day and get rid of them for you. So I'm not saying that it's the right thing to do, but what I am saying is you can't be blind to the fact that this stuff doesn't go on. It goes on all across the board with everybody. I don't care. You could be you could be Gandhi or whoever. It goes on.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in what happens in movies always derived from real life situations. So shows like Scandal and all those other shows where you can literally see people are in boxes for hours at a time and then interrogated for 24 hours at a time. Like, all these different tactics, it happens. I mean, I don't know if to say that 2 wrongs make a right. They chopped off our heads, so we bring
I ain't
their-
saying
we
all.
bring-
I ain't
mean,
saying
that's
all
what
that
it
now, but
sounded
you know,
I don't.
like.
I don't even need to know the details.
Honestly,
I
I
don't
don't
know
want to
exactly.
know.
I don't
But
know
I know
what
you're willing to go there. So by all means, do your job.
Right.
Just like when I go to work, they expect me to do my job. When I go pay for that stick of gum or pay for that hamburger and that tax come out, do your job. You understand what I'm saying?
Whatever that might be.
Whatever that might be,
0.06%.
do your job. That 6% going somewhere, and I want all of my 6%. Every last bit of it.
You know, you make a great point. You know, I think it's kind of silly. They're painting, and you know, some of the criticism is that this report could lead to attacks on some embassies outside of the U.S. But
Oh yeah, they didn't report to attack the embassy.
but
Crazy.
but Democrats, you know, they're the ones leading this charge on releasing this information. You know, they just feel like the American public needs to know some of the atrocities, as they refer to them, that were committed against some of these individuals who we held as prisoners. But I agree with you. Is, you know, if we're at war, at the time that a lot of this stuff was taking place, this was just after the most horrendous, as they describe it, terrorist attack on the United States soil. And so the goal here was to try and find out as much information possible to prevent any other attacks from happening. And so whatever you need to do, as far as I'm concerned, to find out that information so that I don't have to worry about another attack, if you will, you know, I'm all in. Do what you need to do. But I don't need to know the details.
Yep.
And other countries don't keep so much away from their people like how we are. So if you turn on the TV and half the things in the news you already know, we're missing information about what's going on in our country. We cannot figure that out on TV. We can't find it on TV. It'll be probably very hard to find it online. And, you know, we're kind of kept in the dark about a lot of situations. So, I mean, this being released, I mean, I'm sure some people can appreciate it.
Oh, beautiful. For spacious skies, for amber waves of grain. That is the picture that is painted for us here
Right.
in America. And granted, we know everything is not always peachy and cream, but regardless of the fact, when it comes down to protecting this country, you signed up to do whatever it is that needs to be done to protect this country. So if somebody came into your household and was trying you in your household, you're going to do whatever it is you do to protect your household. So it goes the same way with this country. But the mere fact that we portray an image,
Right.
image saying, okay, well, America, you know, land of the free and of the brave, which is somewhat correct.